On the eve of revolution, in the shadowed streets of Boston, a fateful night unfolds. It is April 18th, 1775, a clear, cold evening under a waning gibbous moon that rises late, cloaking the world in profound darkness. The air hangs heavy with anticipation as secret machinations set the stage for conflict. At 9 o'clock that evening, General Thomas Gage, commander of the British forces in the colonies, issues clandestine orders to Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith. The directive is clear and urgent. Lead a composite force of approximately 700 men, drawn from the elite flank companies, the Grenadiers and light infantry of regiments including the 4th, 5th, 10th, 23rd, 38th, 43rd, 47th, 52nd, and even Marines, on a march to Concord. Their mission, to seize and destroy a hidden stockpile of gunpowder and cannon, the lifeblood of colonial resistance. As the hour turns to 10 across town, Paul Revere is summoned by Dr. Joseph Warren. The message is dire. Ride swiftly to Lexington and warn John Hancock and Samuel Adams that the regulars are coming out. The Patriots' leaders must be roused from their fragile sanctuary. Tension mounts in the chill night air. By 10:30, 2 lanterns flicker briefly in the steeple of the Old North Church, a coded signal to the watchful eyes in Charlestown. 2 if by sea. The British advance is underway, crossing the Charles River by boat, their intentions veiled in shadow. 11 o'clock brings the soldiers to the water's edge. Ferried in longboats, they disembark at Leshmere Point in Cambridge, plunging into waist-deep water that soaks them to the bone. Exhausted already from the secretive muster, they huddle on the marshy shore, forced to endure hours in the biting cold and damp, awaiting delayed provisions. Shivers rack their frames. Fatigue weighs upon them like an unseen enemy as confusion whispers through the ranks. What delays this vital march? Midnight strikes, and Revere presses on through the darkened roads, his horse's hooves echoing the urgency of his quest. He reaches Lexington just after the hour, bursting into the Hancock-Clark house to alert Hancock and Adams. A sentry urges silence, but Revere's voice cuts through the night. "Noise! You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming out." The warning ignites a spark of alarm, stirring the sleeping town from its uneasy repose. As 1 o'clock tolls, William Dawes arrives to join Revere. Together, with Dr. Samuel Prescott, they spur their mounts toward Concord, racing against the encroaching dawn to spread the alert further. But the night grows treacherous. A British patrol ambushes them. Revere is captured, his mission thwarted in an instant. Dawes is thrown from his horse in the chaos, scrambling away into the shadows. Only Prescott slips through the net, vanishing into the gloom to carry the vital warning to Concord alone. By 2 in the morning, the Prelude draws to a close. The British troops, sodden and weary, stir at last from their frigid vigil, their path ahead fraught with uncertainty. The rider's desperate gambit has sown seeds of confusion as the colonies awaken to the rumble of impending storm. What began in secrecy now hurtles toward dawn and destiny. Dawn creeps over the horizon on April 19th, 1775. The crisp, clear cold sharpens every sense. Sunrise nears at 5:07, casting a pale glow on the dewy fields of Lexington, where visibility cuts like a blade through the lingering shadows. The British troops, sodden and bone-weary from their midnight ordeal in the marshes, press onward, their boots heavy with mud and fatigue, the weight of the night clinging to them like a shroud. At 4:30, the urgent beat of drums shatters the pre-dawn hush in Lexington. Captain John Parker, a seasoned veteran of frontier wars, summons his militia to the Green. 77 men, farmers, mechanics, ordinary souls roused from their beds, assemble in ragged lines, muskets clutched in calloused hands. They face an advancing shadow. The British vanguard, some 240 light infantry under Major John Pitcairn of the Marines. Elite but exhausted, their resolve frayed by hours of cold delay and the endless march. By 5 o'clock, the Redcoats crest the rise around the meeting house, their forms materializing like ghosts in the growing light. They surge onto the Green, a tide of disciplined fury, bayonets glinting. Tension coils in the air, thick and electric. The outnumbered militia stand frozen, the British soldiers' breaths visible in the chill, their eyes hollow from the night's trials. Captain Parker surveys the scene. The the vast disparity etching lines of grim realization on his face. Outnumbered more than 3-1, he steels his men with words that echo through the ages. Stand your ground. Don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have a war, let it begin here. Yet whispers of doubt linger. Some recall his cousin Jonas Parker vowing he would never run, while history debates if the order was simply to disperse without a fight. Confusion simmers beneath the surface as resolve teeters on the edge of chaos. 10 minutes past 5, Major Pitcairn spurs his horse forward, sword swinging in an arc of command. His voice booms across the green, laced with imperial disdain. "Lay down your arms, you damned rebels, and disperse." The demand hangs heavy, a spark in a powder keg, as the weary British lines bristle, their patience worn thin by the interminable night. Slowly, the militia begins to yield, drifting apart in hesitant retreat, some stubbornly shouldering their muskets, a gesture that sows seeds of bewilderment among the Redcoats. In that fragile moment of dispersal, a single shot cracks the air, its origin lost to the fog of history, perhaps a hidden spectator behind a hedge, or a soldier's finger twitching in panic. The sound reverberates, shattering the standoff. Chaos erupts without command. The British light infantry, ragged from exhaustion and frayed nerves, unleash a devastating volley, smoke and thunder engulfing the green. Then comes the charge. Bayonets lowered, they surge forward in a frenzy. The militia scatters in terror, the ground stained with blood. 8 colonists lie dead, 10 more wounded in the melee. Only 1 British soldier bears a wound, a fleeting mark amid the slaughter. The dawn of revolution breaks in confusion and carnage, the exhausted invaders now entangled in a war they unwittingly ignited. Higher into the bright mid-morning sky on April 19, 1775, the chill of dawn gives way to a tentative warmth, illuminating the rolling fields of Concord. Yet beneath this deceptive calm, exhaustion grips the British troops. Hours of marching through the night, the sodden wait in the marshes, and the bloody dawn at Lexington have left them hollow-eyed and frayed, their formations strained by the relentless push into hostile territory. Confusion reigns in whispers. What hidden threats lurk in these quiet hills? By 7 o'clock, the full British column, now reunified after the fragmented night, trudges into Concord. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith divides his weary force for the search. Captain Lawrence Parsons leads 3 companies from the 4th, 10th and 43rd Regiments toward Colonel Barrett's farm, probing for the elusive colonial arsenal. Meanwhile, Captain Walter Lorry is tasked with guarding the North Bridge, his contingent a mere 90 to 95 men from the light infantry of the same regiments, their vigilance eroded by fatigue as they scan the serene river below. 2 hours pass, the sun strengthening its hold. At 9 o'clock, militiamen from Concord, Acton, Lincoln and Bedford converge on Punkatasset Hill, their numbers swelling to a watchful force overlooking the town. From their vantage, alarm surges as smoke billows from the centre. British soldiers, in their haste, have set fire to seized cannon carriages, the flames licking skyward like a beacon of destruction. Adjutant Joseph Hosmer's voice pierces the gathering tension. "Will you let them burn the town down?" The words ignite a spark of defiance, confusion twisting into resolve as the colonists grapple with the sight of their homes threatened. 9:30, and the decision crystallizes. Approximately 400 militiamen form into double file, advancing steadily toward the North Bridge. Leading the column are Major John Buttrick and Captain Isaac Davis of the Acton Minutemen, their steps measured but inexorable, hearts pounding in the warming air. The British, spotting the approach, retreat hastily to the far side of the bridge, their hands fumbling to rip up planks in a desperate bid to halt the tide. Warning shots crack the morning stillness, splintering the fragile peace. Then, without mercy, a lethal volley erupts from the Redcoats' lines. In an instant, tragedy strikes. Captain Isaac Davis and Abner Hosmer of Acton fall lifeless to the ground, the first blood of Concord spilled. Shock ripples through the militia ranks, exhaustion and fury colliding in the British soldiers' eyes as confusion erupts anew. Who fired first, and why? The moment hangs by a thread. Then, Major Buttrick's command thunders across the bridge, a rallying cry that shatters the hesitation. "Fire, fellow soldiers, for God's sake, fire!" The militia unleashes their retort, muskets blazing in unison. 3 British soldiers crumple dead, 9 more wounded in the hail of lead. Panic seizes the Redcoats. Their formation fractures like brittle ice, weary legs carrying them in disordered flight back toward the town centre. The bridge, once a simple span, now stands as the fulcrum of rebellion, the exhausted invaders reeling from a confusion that has birthed open war. As the afternoon sun arcs across the sky on April 19th, 1775, cumulus clouds gather ominously, casting fleeting shadows over the bloodied landscape. The British soldiers, once an imposing force, now stagger under the weight of unrelenting exhaustion. Dehydrated, their ammunition dwindling, the toll of the long night and morning's clashes etched in every laboured step. Confusion swirls like the building clouds. What began as a swift raid has unravelled into a desperate retreat, the road back to Boston, a gauntlet of unseen perils. At 12:30, the order comes. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith's column begins the weary march eastward, their flanks exposed, morale fraying with each mile. The illusion of control shatters almost immediately at Merriam's Corner. As the Redcoats navigate a narrow bridge, the air erupts with gunfire from the tree line. The militia, no longer content with open confrontation, wage a guerrilla war, hiding behind stone walls, trees and houses, their shots precise and unrelenting. The British reel, fatigue amplifying the chaos as disciplined ranks begin to buckle under the invisible assault. Pressing on into Lincoln, the road twists into the infamous Bloody Angle, a sharp curve that funnels the column into a deadly trap. Crossfire ambushes them from all sides, bullets whistling through the leaves, sowing panic among the exhausted troops. Men fall, cries echo, and confusion reigns. Who commands this hidden enemy, and how can formations hold against such shadowed fury? The retreat devolves into a harrowing scramble, the soldiers' thirst and weariness blurring the line between order and desperation. Around 1:30, near the Lexington-Lincoln line, vengeance strikes anew. Captain John Parker, undeterred by the morning's slaughter, rallies his surviving men from Lexington. They unleash a fierce ambush on the passing column, their volleys a thunderous reprisal. The British stagger onward, the weight of accumulated losses pressing down, exhaustion turning every step into torment as the guerrilla onslaught intensifies. By 2:30 in Lexington, the column teeters on the brink of collapse. Surrender whispers through the ranks, panic rising like a tide. Dehydration clouds judgment, low ammunition forces, desperate economies, and confusion mounts. Will this be the end? Salvation arrives in the form of Brigadier General Hugh, Earl Percy's relief force, approximately 1,000 fresh troops, bolstered by 2 6-pounder cannons. Positioning the artillery on high ground near Monroe Tavern, Percy's guns roar to life, pounding the militia and granting a fleeting respite, the blasts scattering the pursuers and halting the attacks, if only for a moment. But the ordeal is far from over. From 4:30 to 6:30 in Monotony, now Arlington, the fighting erupts into the day's fiercest maelstrom. House-to-house combat engulfs the streets, a brutal melee where every doorway and window becomes a battleground. Nearly half of the day's total casualties fall here, the air thick with smoke and screams, exhaustion pushing men to their limits amid the unrelenting confusion of close-quarters carnage. As 7 o'clock approaches, the shattered remnants of the British force finally limp into the safety of Charlestown, shielded by the formidable guns of the HMS Somerset. The retreat ends, but the cost is etched in blood. 73 British killed, 174 wounded, 26 missing. The colonists, too, bear scars. 49 killed, 39 wounded, 5 missing. What began in the dark of night has forged a path of fire, the exhausted soldiers' confusion birthing a revolution that will echo through the ages. As night descends upon the scarred fields of Massachusetts on April 19, 1775, a profound transformation envelops the landscape. The glow of thousands of campfires encircles the harbour like a ring of unyielding resolve, piercing the darkness. In Boston, A heavy, exhausted silence settles over the city, broken only by the distant echoes of defeat. Yet beyond its bounds, a frantic energy surges among the gathering militia, riders thundering through the night to summon allies from Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. The confusion of the day lingers, a spectral fog, as the British soldiers, utterly spent and demoralized, grapple with the reversal of fortunes. From 8 o'clock into the midnight hours, the remnants of the British force collapse upon Bunker Hill in Charlestown, their bodies racked by dehydration, wounds, and the unrelenting march. Eventually, they are ferried back to the relative safety of Boston proper, but the world has shifted irrevocably. The hunters have become the hunted. General Thomas Gage, once the unchallenged military governor of Massachusetts, finds himself reduced to the mayor of a besieged city, trapped within its narrow limits, his grand designs unraveled by the chaos of a single fateful day. Tension builds through the night as word of the bloodshed races outward, igniting a call to arms across New England. By the morning of April 20th, the noose tightens. Approximately 15,000 to 20,000 militia converge, surrounding Boston and sealing all land exits. The siege of Boston has begun, a testament to the day's confusion, metastasizing into organized defiance, the exhausted Redcoats now staring out at an encircling force that swells with each passing hour. The grim tally emerges in the dawn's light, underscoring the shock of the encounter. The British suffer 273 casualties, 73 killed, 174 wounded, 26 missing, out of approximately 1,700 engaged, a staggering nearly 16% loss for what was meant as a mere police action. The Americans, by contrast, endure 93 casualties, 49 killed, 39 wounded, 5 missing, from roughly 3,800 who clashed at various points, their lighter toll belying the ferocity that has left both sides forever altered. This day marks a profound psychological turning point, shattering the fragile veil of civility. Before April 19th, the strife was political, a quarrel over taxes and charters between loyal subjects and their sovereign king. After, the barrier crumbles. The act of killing the king's troops transforms vague resistance into open rebellion, confusion giving way to clarity in the smoke of battle. As Brigadier General Hugh, Earl Percy reports to General Gage on April 20th, "Whoever looks upon them as an irregular mob will find himself much mistaken. They have men amongst them who know very well what they are about. You may depend upon it that as the rebels have now had time to prepare, they are determined to go through with it, nor will the insurrection here turn out so despicable as it is perhaps imagined at home." The legacy of this harrowing day reverberates far beyond the bloodied roads. It proves that a citizen militia, drawn from farms and villages, can stand against the professional British Army, the mightiest military force on earth. This emboldens the Continental Congress, leading them 2 months hence to form the Continental Army and appoint George Washington as its commander-in-chief. In the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, reflecting in 1837, "By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmers stood, and fired the shot heard round the world." The confusion of exhaustion has forged an unbreakable resolve, igniting the flames of revolution.